welcome to the Ignite CDA July board meeting. Would everybody please stand and join me in Pledge of Allegiance? Now that everybody made it through that construction, we can begin.
Oh, dear.
So any public comment? Seeing none, we will go on to the consent calendar.
Okay.
I look at Sarah.
You're looking at me. I make a motion to approve the consent calendar consisting of the June 29th, 2024 board meeting minutes, the payables as submitted, and the district monthly financial statements.
Second.
Okay, we have an approval, a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And the executive director's report. I'm sorry, Finance Committee. Finance Committee. I feel like that should have been the consent calendar. So the fiscal year 2024 amended budget.
So
Did you wanna-
I'm going to defer
going
to Executive Director Burns to walk us through this.
Okay.
Thank you. I'd be happy to kind of take this over. So what we have today for an action item is the fiscal year 2024 amended budget discussion and publication approval. The proposed budget amendments are necessary due to changes in district project costs and timelines. And on the screen and in front of you, you see that proposed budget amendments are highlighted in red font. I'll just kind of briefly go through some of the line items that you see that are proposed for amendment. So line 1, the significant variance in the Atlas District updated starting value reflects the timing of project spending for the Atlas project as well as actual levy rate values. On line 4, the amended tax increment revenue receipts for the districts are increased due to calculations using actual levy rates and updated county valuation numbers. On line 6, the amended interest and miscellaneous funds values increased due to higher interest rates paid on district cash balances. On line 8, the property divestitures, the Atlas District amended value reflects lower than budgeted sale proceeds due to the withholding of sale of Area 5A in FY24. On line 16, the amended value in professional services reflects a lower than expected legal counsel costs. On line 25, the public art, the amended values reflect more accurate calculations based on actual levy rates. On line 30, the budgeted planning costs for the River and Atlas districts will not be spent. Line 31, the agency-funded programs, the River and Atlas district amended values pertain to the dynamics associated with the Atlas project. And finally, on line 33, the River, Atlas, and Health Corridor District Special Project Reserve accounts are set to 0. In other words, no anticipated needs for those budgeted funds in FY24. With that, I'll address any questions you have regarding the amended budget.
Commissioner Evans?
Tony, can you repeat line 30 under planning?
Line 30.
Yes, I just was a step behind you.
We had budgeted for planning costs in the River and Atlas districts, but we will not spend any money on planning.
Okay, thank you.
So it looks like, in a nutshell, everything is better than we thought? Pretty much?
Except for the Atlas district, we kind of withheld Area 5A. We were hoping to
Right.
kind of get that sold, but we
Right, but
have
it's-
chosen not to.
Yeah, we're not going to lose, yeah.
No,
money
no,
on
we will bring that back to you in fiscal year '25.
Yeah,
So that's the next topic of conversation. We'll be bringing that one back up.
okay.
Any other questions? So we need a motion.
So we would need a motion to authorize me to publish the amended budget in the Coeur d'Alene Press prior to August 21st public hearing that we'll have on the budget.
I'll make that
moved.
motion, to submit the fiscal 2024 amended budget after discussion and go ahead and publication approval. So I guess you go ahead and publish it.
Publicate it?
Publicate it, yeah. Good word.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
That was poor. Could have done better.
We have an approval and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. On to the 2025 draft budget. Tony, are you taking that away too?
25. Yeah, we pull that up on the screen here. You also have a copy of this in front of you. Just to refresh everybody's memory on budgeting, under Idaho urban renewal law, urban renewal agencies are required to prepare and finalize budgets prior to September 1st of each year. Therefore, the Ignite Board needs to review draft budgets at the July board meeting and authorize publication of the draft budgets prior to the August board meeting, where a public hearing will be held on the budgets. So what you see on the screen and what you have before you is the proposed FY25 budget. This has been reviewed by the Finance Committee. They've approved bringing this forward for the full board's consideration. Just some general comments. The tax increment revenue budget values that you see are derived using old 2023 levy rates. In other words, budgeted tax increment revenue values for each district may come in higher or lower than projected due to how the levy rates are set by the taxing entities later this year. Kind of our standard qualifier every year that we just don't know what the levy rates are going to be. So for the River District will handle 50% of the general and administrative costs for the agency. Under the organization dues line item, there's $15,000 included for Jobs Plus funding. This is the same level of spending that was paid or spent in FY24. In the River District, the 2019 note draw, we are anticipating no monies needed to be borrowed from Washington Trust Bank on this note, so that is set to 0. The arts amount of money there is set at 1% accrual of tax increment revenue received from the county, and this once again is set by the board. We've been using that 1% for the past several years. And then at the end of each fiscal year, the board makes a decision on whether to transfer those accrued funds to the Arts Commission at the City of Coeur d'Alene. Another comment is agency will reimburse the city in fiscal year 24 for the city's land acquisition cost, which is $1.7 million for the Atlas Mill Site property located within the River District boundary. No further reimbursement to the city for Atlas Mill Site land costs for the remainder of the River District term. So as you recall, when the city bought all this property out there, that the property was encompassed in 3 different districts, a Lake, River, and Atlas. So each district has its own amount of money to be reimbursed to the city at your discretion. So the Lake District has already reimbursed the funds to the city that was within its boundary, and it's now terminated and closed. So this year, we'll be bringing forward to the board in September to reimburse the city for the River District's share of the city's acquisition costs of the mill site. So this will be the end of the River District's, commitment to reimbursement on that front. And the same goes, as you also recall, the city brought in some structural fill material costs back in 2018-19 when they did I-90, and they spent $153,000 on that, and we're going to reimburse them that also, the River District's share of that amount in fiscal 24. So that is going to be taken care of in this fiscal year.
And when would those funds be distributed?
In September, we will issue those at your discretion. You know, I'll bring forward a payable for those funds to be paid to the city in September of this year.
So it's
River District. And for fiscal year 2025, there will be no payment back on principal to the River District, but we will budget for interest payment on that loan. So the health corridor will not be reimbursing the River District for that loan amount. And that goes the same for the Atlas District, owes quite a bit of money to the River District, about $5 million. And that is not going to be, none of that money will be coming to the River District in 2025 also. There will be interest budgeted, but no principal payments. And the reason we're doing that is that we're still working through the financial ramifications of funding everything out in the Atlas District. So we're going to kind of hold off on reimbursing the River District for a couple of years. And the health corridor is still kind of skinny on its resources right now, and it owes $500,000 to the River District. We have about $1 million total, so it's still kind of thin there. So we're going to kind of hold off on the reimbursement there. That's what the budget says. Then finally, for some Atlas project funding, the FY25 budget contains $12,040 for wrap-up of irrigation work and $150,000 for 2 monument signs to be located at the Atlas Road entrance. So remember that? It's kind of where we're leaning on on monument signs, so that's what's in the budget at this time for those 2 monument signs that you all kind of gave us direction to focus on, and that'll be in the River District.
Does that reflect about 100,000 lower cost for those 2 signs, or?
Yeah, I think that it was anywhere over 350,000 up, and so what your direction was is just to have 2 signs at about 75,000 apiece
Nice.
on either side of the Atlas. And we'll talk more about this in August when we bring that back for consideration. But that's the funding for that in the budget.
Thank you.
So moving on to the Atlas District. The Atlas District will pick up 25% of the G&A cost for the agency. There will be no money loaned from the River District to the Atlas District, no need for that. The arts are set at 1% accrual of tax increment revenue received from the county. Professional services, we still have a larger than typical budgeted value for legal services, primarily for the Atlas project work. The agency in its intent is to reimburse the city for the city's acquisition costs for the Atlas Millside properties located within the Atlas District boundary. That's about $5.3 million, and as I mentioned, we're not going to be spending any of that in FY25. That's going to be pushed down the road a little bit. And that goes same for the Atlas District's share of the structural fill material that the city brought in back in 2018. So those will be expenditures that will be pushed out a couple years. The property divestiture income that you see for FY25 in the Atlas District is $3.3 million. That reflects for Atlas project areas 5A and 7. And the Atlas project for phase 2 and 3 calls for $4.1 million of new spending, primarily on phase 3 infrastructure. So that's kind of the overview of the Atlas District. And then the Health Corridor District, it will pick up 25% of G&A costs. No money needed to be loaned from the River District to the Health Corridor District at this time. On the revenue plan, the tax anticipation note that we've been talking about for a while in the form of a bank line of credit with Kootenai Health as a guarantor is at $0 right now. We'll continue conversations with Kootenai Health regarding their readiness level on this potential partnership as the calendar year progresses. We may need to amend the budget if it gains some traction. If pursued, Kootenai Health would pay the P&I on any bank line of credit draws, but that's still kind of out there, and we really haven't kind of taken that any further, but it's an opportunity. And the same goes for on the revenue plan for the Kootenai Health payment in lieu of taxes, the pilot contribution. That is set at $0. Kootenai Health is willing to engage on pilot funding. The timing is unsure, maybe in 25, maybe not. So we're going to re-engage with Kootenai Health leadership this fall to kind of see where they're at on their financial picture and what kind of projects we got coming to see where they might fit in on the pilot funding. The arts is set at 1% of accrual of tax increment revenue received from the county. The Health Corridor District, as I mentioned, does not begin principal reimbursement payments to the River District on the loan. And finally, there is a proposed Kootenai Health, City, Idaho Transportation Department, Ignite CDA partnership for developing a ped bike trail alignment along the north side of the Kootenai Health campus associated with ITD's I-90 expansion initiative. Possibility of design work in FY25 is estimated at $60,000. There is a proposed 3-way split with Ignite CDA, City, and Kootenai Health picking up this design cost, so we put $20,000 into the budget for that potential design work. That could be fluid. It could come in differently as this all kind of gains momentum next fiscal year, but that's kind of where we're at right now. That was the need expressed at this time. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Tony?
Well, I think, you know, that bike thing, doing something with the bike thing is good. I would have much rather had some money for that bridge to extend, you know, the other bridge over the freeway, but that's not going to happen. But this, anything like this we can do, I think is good value, so.
Okay, we'll need a motion to approve the 2025 draft budget.
I'll make a motion to ask the executive director to publicize the draft budget for FY 2025 per requirements.
Second.
Okay, we have approval in a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have, motion carries.
Thank you,
So-
Tony.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the thorough discussion, too. That helps. Now we will talk about the fiscal year 2024 audit. Sarah, are you going to take that away, or is
I'll
Tony?
take that one on again,
We'll-
if you don't mind.
Tag team it?
So,
Tag team it.
you've all seen the engagement letter offered by Scott Hoover, was Hoover CPA for the FY '24 audit. I've discussed this issue with the Finance Committee, and they're all supportive of using Mr. Hoover again. His proposed audit fee for fiscal year '24 is $11,000. So I would look to the board for a motion to accept his engagement proposal and get him lined up to perform our FY '24 fiscal audit this fall.
I'd just like to add, from the Finance Committee standpoint, that we do feel that Mr. Hoover has invested a significant amount of time and energy into understanding that the intricacies of the funding models and the way that we have to handle some of this stuff with the city and the Atlas District. And so there's a lot of value invested in that knowledge that we value and want to continue working with. So that, among other reasons, that's the main reason we want to retain him. So I would make a motion that we authorize the executive director to sign and engage with Hoover CPA for our next year's fiscal audit.
Second.
And it sounds like a good bargain. We know, I mean, the complexity of this, the size of our funds, and the different streams, that's,
He does a really
That's
good
good.
job as well.
yeah, oh yeah,
yes.
he really, yep.
Yes, he does. So we have an approval and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. So now time for the executive director's report.
Thank you, Vice Chair Metz.
Okay.
First up is Atlas Project Area 7 Request for Proposals. So I'm bringing forward to you, at the recommendation of our Atlas Project team, RFP for Area 7, which is located on the southern side of Phase 3 and consists of 13 residential lots. I'll kind of walk you through and the community through the RFP, which is on the screen. So as you see, Area 7 is kind of highlighted in orange here. Phase 3 is just to the north of there. You can see the park and the river, kind of give you orientation. So the RFP kind of goes through some quick facts, talks about the development opportunity. It's pretty straightforward. It's 13 single-family residential lots. Gives some more background on Coeur d'Alene for any development teams that are not familiar with our community. Talks about market view. Once it kind of gives a scope and scale of where the Atlas project site is located. Gives some residential market data that Heartland helps us with and updated with Valbridge Consulting, kind of to help folks understand where things are at. Once again, project background. Once again, shows where Area 7 is in the scheme of things, with Phase 3 taking shape behind it. Once again, that didn't come through for some reason, but there's Area 7. I don't know what happened with that graphic. There's that better graphic. Kind of shows you once again where Area 7 is there. Phase 3 kind of coming into formation, as well as the other areas that have been sold, and the colors represent different development teams, kind of what they are. So the Toll Brothers in purple, Active West over in purple, or light purple there. So kind of gives you an idea of where the areas are under contract. Walks through the transaction process about how Area 7 will be rewarded. Gives a timeline, so if the board approves issuance of this RFP, we will put it out starting tomorrow with a due date for proposal of August 30th, 2024. We kind of made it tight because it's a fairly straightforward offering that we don't think it'll take a whole lot of time for folks to kind of come up with proposals. And then selection in September, DDA signed in December, and hopefully a closing in first quarter of next year. We're interested in doing this because, once again, it's a straightforward proposal. and that we definitely would benefit from realizing the revenue associated with this sale as we continue to spend money on Phase 3. Got a scoring matrix here, kind of showing you how proposals will be evaluated, development experience, consistency with development standards and architectural design guidelines, as well as purchase price. It's weighted with a total points of 200. And as you recall, we have a different team that reviews these RFPs. We have city representation, we have Ignite representation, and we have consultant representation with Welch Comer and Heartland. So Mr. Tymason, Commissioner, or Chair, Councilwoman Wood, and Hillary Patterson are from the city. And we have several of our board members, Olivia and Brennan, and myself and Danielle from Ignite, and then our Heartland and Phil Boyd. Kind of round out that team. And then we bring, as you know, we bring a recommendation to you for further review and hopefully an award. Goes through offering instructions, kind of gets in the nitty-gritty of what needs to be done for submittal. Talks about development standards, and just wanted to point out the type of uses that are allowed here. It's residential, building type, single-family front-loaded, duplexes front-loaded, cottage court, and front-loaded townhomes. So those are the choices that are available there. Once again, kind of gets into the specs about what they can do and what they can't do. Due diligence materials are located on our website. Give them more background. Most of these development teams, assuming that they'd be interested, are very familiar with the Atlas project, but we might have some folks from away that might be interested, and so kind of help them get them grounded. And then the public disclosure, competitive integrity type things, and just kind of boilerplate legal stuff, along with an escalation form at the back here, so they can, last page here, make an offer and then say if they want to increase that up to a certain level. So, happy to answer any questions that you have for that.
Any questions for Tony? I think we're looking for a motion to publish. Oh,
Couple
Commissioner.
clarifying questions,
Yeah.
if I may. Tony, tell us a little bit about the rationale, if you can, from the project team about bringing this to market now. I understand the need for revenue based on the budget we just reviewed, but I also recall in the last couple of meetings, we had some fairly spirited discussions over extensions being given to current property owners who don't have enough market sale velocity to continue to close in the lots in the originally forecasted timeframe. So are we just exacerbating a supply chain issue here, or excuse me, a demand curve issue by introducing 13 more lots into what appears to be a crowded marketplace with not enough demand for the lots in the project?
That's a great question. We talked about that at the team level. We think that this is a unique enough offering that we could generate interest from other development teams that might have different capacities that we've heard about. We are aware of some of the energy about oversaturation of the market out there. But we've had Heartland kind of reach out to some folks to kind of test those waters a little bit, and there seems to be some energy, especially with a closing in first quarter of next year that might be viable. So we don't see any harm in kind of going out to the market now, seeing what the market tells us. If they tell us we're nuts and that it's still crazy and we get no bids or very poor bids, then we know. But if we tap into something that, but we're not sure if we might tap into something very valuable. My energy around this is I'd really like to try to get revenue coming in without having to borrow more money. If we can't get these sold, we're going to have to either not do things out at Atlas or borrow more money from the River District, which will just exasperate, debt service.
Primarily
So-
Phase 3.
Yeah, and so that's kind of my energy around this. We've held off. We were going to bring this to the board in April for issuance, but we listened to the development teams and kind of held off, and now we think the time is right to test. That's a great question, and we discussed that long and hard.
Sure. I would imagine. It's helpful to know that the idea that the timing is a real driver, to say, to continue the rest of the infrastructure improvements, that some dollars now is better than, maximizing dollars from a supply-demand curve when there's nothing else available. Then we bring these to the market and we might drive higher prices, but that might be in a time frame that doesn't allow us to achieve the other strategic goals. So I appreciate the background. Thank you.
Good question. Any other questions for Tony?
Tony, just a quick question. So obviously, we're gonna talk a little bit about Area 3 tonight, and what's happening there. But, I mean, I'm sure Phil's gonna bring up what's happening there. But this is right next door to Area 3. Is there any concern that that is still unknown, what the outlook's gonna be for that property, when this goes out to bid?
We talked about that also, and that we feel that there's enough, I guess, competitive intelligence out there that they know what the board is considering on Phase 3 site. I mean, it's not something we're hiding, that we're looking to higher density there, and the board is still kind of thinking about what level of potential attainable housing might be there. So it's nothing that is not known to the marketplace. If we get some folks from outside the region that aren't sure of things, hopefully they will reach out and we can educate them on that, because they might see that in the RFP, that what the heck's that big brown thing behind us there? You know, what's going to happen there? Is that going to be a pond, a lake, or whatever? So, you know, hopefully we'll be able to address those concerns if they arise.
Another good question. Any other good questions? Okay, so do we need a motion to publish?
Yeah, just a motion authorizing me to release the RFP.
I make a motion to authorize the executive director to release the RFP for Area 7.
Second?
All right, we have approval second. Do we have any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Phil? Or do you have anything else? Okay. Thank you, Phil.
Vice Chair Metz? Let's see here. Okay, another short update this month. Just stuff kind of winding up the Phase 2B project. The dry utilities are complete, which is a positive thing, and La Riviere is starting on the landscape irrigation. That installation work is underway, and then probably later this summer, we'll see the landscaping actually going in. If you guys have been out there, you've probably seen the Phase 3 haul continuing. La Riviere is actually starting the back haul today, hauling the non-structural soils back to the Atlas Road site. I'm going to show you some site grade modifications that were required, because I think, as I mentioned at the last board meeting, we've run into more non-structural soils on the site than we had anticipated. And then just an update, Tony kind of hit it already on the Atlas entry monument signs. We've got a revision that we're working through with Del Hatch. We'll send you a memo on that before the next board meeting, so you guys have opportunity to contemplate it, a little site plan and an exhibit that kind of reflects the direction you gave me last month. Just some of the that's going to happen. So some changes that we made that will be real obvious to you. You might recall that this site right here was originally at, we'll call it the Southeast Way grade, and it had the opportunity to build a fire station here. So literally you could come in here, come through, and turn out that way. Right now there's about in this grading, we've dropped it about 8 feet. So that's no longer an option there. But that's a way to save structural soils, and that's the predicament that we're in, and so that's where we're headed. Not to say we can't go the other direction in the future if we get some, but we made that change. We also flattened the grade through here. These are the Butler homes, twin homes that are on the south side of Lumber Lane. And then here is some shots of where our Barrosos is. So to orient you, you're looking south. This is Atlas Road here. This is I-90. And the board might remember we're building ITD's new stormwater facility for them. So that is where the stormwater facility goes. This is where we're just simply borrowing soil out of the city of Coeur d'Alene's right of way, and the backhaul of the non-structural will end up in this area. So you can see this is a pretty deep excavation because we're trying to maximize the borrow in here. Kind of give some more shots of it. And that's all I have. I know it's a short one, but I'm glad to answer any questions. If the board has anything.
Any questions for Phil?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. All right, time for board commissioner comments. I have one. Chairman Hoskins shared with the board that Ignite CDA's legal counsel, Danielle Quaid, was awarded the 2024 Idaho Municipal Attorneys Association's Pillar of the Community Award. This award recognizes a municipal attorney who has devoted years of service to one city and Ignite CDA. This person is recognized by their peers in the Idaho Municipal Attorneys Association as a pillar of that community, in this case, the community of Coeur d'Alene. Congratulations, Danielle.
All right, yeah.
Thank you. And thanks to Tony, he participated in my nomination, I believe.
Well, we appreciate everything you do, because you definitely are a right-hand man there. So thank you. Any other board commissioner comments?
Well, just on Monday, we have a workshop, budget workshop for the city. And, you know, it's that kind of time of the year, you know, sharpening knives and all of that. Now, this, you know, news, to me, it sounds like that might be new news, that some of this funding coming in, I don't know if Troy's factored that into things, but I mean, so there's just a lot of attention on that, and, but, you know, I certainly hope it is new money. We didn't know we have it, because that's going to help with some things. Also, just looking a little bit further down the road, since, you know, we're talking about the whole Area 3 and the workforce housing and stuff, and just that, you know, there's still, you know, I think a whole lot of community expectation of what we can do or should do and all of that. So, you know, I'll be curious to see what comes out. And, you know, we played with different ratios, and, you know, at some point we might, you know, up our game depending on how everything else works out. But anyway, that still just needs to be a focus point, I think. So.
Thank you. Any other board commissioner comments? Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We are adjourned.
Okay, not bad.
Everybody.